Hello, my spooky friends.
And welcome into I'd Survive. Welcome in to episode 2, everybody. We're hoping you enjoyed the first one. There are some things that we didn't mention in the first one that I want to say here. Please check out our Discord.
True.
We have a Discord channel set up for the pod just because we want to have that element of interaction, and I feel like Discord is probably the best tool for that. So if you want to get in on conversations episode to episode, that is probably the best place for you to be. It is titled I mean, let me cross my fingers and hope that it's available. I can't imagine it won't be.
Yeah.
The Discord server is titled I'd Survive Podcast. And then remember to check us out on Instagram, same username, I'd Survive Podcast. Caitlin has a new mic. That's something new going into this.
I want to apologize for my audio in the first episode. It's probably not great, but it will be good now. I promise. We got a better dude here. And by dude, I mean microphone. I don't know why I use the word dude.
I thought it was so funny. Me and Caitlin both stream on Twitch, and when she debuted her new mic on Twitch.
Oh my God, I know what you're going to say.
I don't want to call out, do a name call out, but somebody put in chat, oh my God, it sounds like podcast level audio. I died.
I was like,
yes.
I was like, wow, that's awesome. They just really have good audio on podcasts. That's such a compliment.
What has your week in horror been like? Have you watched anything? Are you excited about anything coming up?
Oh, honestly, I've had an interesting and fun week in horror. I've been consuming the Fear Street trilogy, which has been so fun. What a fun little set of horror movies that are they come across as really cutesy, but then you realize they're actually kind of terrifying in a lot of ways. So that's been super fun. I also played Poppy Playtime. And I did struggle a little bit in the third chapter.
a little is an understatement.
Maybe I rage quit. Maybe that happens and it's fine. And maybe I'll never go back to it. Or maybe I will. We'll find out. But I've been doing that. So we'll see if I go back to it. It's just a little janky. But
I remember I watched Fear Street when it first came out, and I think I liked the first one the most. I'm probably due for a rewatch because it's been a while now.
I haven't even watched the third one yet, so I haven't seen that one, but I like the second one quite a lot.
Oh, did you? More than the first?
Yes, the second one's my favorite so far.
Interesting. I feel like the more and more we're going to talk about horror movies, the more we're going to realize how different our tastes are.
I know.
And see then what we both love. Obviously, Scream is probably our main this. Well, who doesn't love Scream?
Exactly. If you don't love Scream, I don't know what to tell you, man.
I watched Nosferatu, which is a gothic horror thriller vibe. And the only thing I knew about Nosferatu going into it was he showed up in SpongeBob a couple times, in the
What a connection.
I just knew that Nosferatu lived at the Krusty Krab in a closet, and that was the extent of my knowledge. So I'm happy to get the full I'm happy to get the full story. It was actually really cool. It makes me want to watch the original, but it's from 1929 and it's silent film.
I have seen some of the original. I haven't seen the new one yet, but I took a horror class in college that was really bizarre. So I've seen little bits of things here and there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I took a film class. I wish it was horror only for obvious reasons. Oh, and then I'm so excited. I want to watch. Have you seen Companion, the movie Companion?
I have not.
It was just in theaters, and that's on my list that I really want to watch.
I'm kind of excited for The Monkey.
Oh my God, is that in theaters now?
I think it's out.
It's now, yeah, I think I saw that it's now showing. Wait, what's the synopsis there?
I have no idea. I just saw the monkey and I was like, it's James Wan and Stephen King. So I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy that even if it's absolutely trash. Like, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that.
So for today's episode, I am the storyteller again, and I'm gonna cover Speak No Evil. I realized in the last episode I mentioned it as one of my top 5 favorite movies, but I didn't mention that I'm talking about the 2022 original, not the 2024 remake.
Wait, because one's a foreign film. That's why they're 2 years apart. I see.
Yes.
For a second, I was like, hold on. I know the remake culture has been getting crazy, but that's a little ridiculous.
Watch out for the Stranger Things remake 2027.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
No, yeah. This movie is a Danish film.
Oh.
A lot of it is in English, though, which I'll explain why. It just makes sense. It makes sense for the plot. So both of our first 2 podcast episodes are part of my top 5 favorite movies because I have no patience. Yes. And I'm excited to talk about them. I think that this movie might be to me what Midsummer is to you.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because it has, I guess, a similar tone where it's very hyper realistic situation, but then it just gets fucked up and dark and you're like, what's going on here?
I love a fucked up film, so
it's gonna be so good for the what would you do aspect of this podcast.
Oh, yay! I'm excited.
And it's one of those movies too where like when I first watched it, I was like, wow, that was fucked up. And then I still think about it. I just keep thinking about it. It doesn't leave me.
That's what makes a good movie.
So like I said, Speak No Evil is a Danish film. Its official Danish title is, here we go, Gaystern. Gaystern?
Gaystern.
I hope. Which actually, that literally translates in English to The Guests. But
whoa, okay, weird.
This is listed as a psychological. Are we surprised that I'm doing another psychological?
Absolutely not.
It's listed as a psychological horror thriller movie. Literally my dream genre combination. It was directed by Christian Taftrup and co-written by him with his brother Mads. And Christian actually has more acting experience to his name than directing. This was his 3rd feature film. And it was a festival film. It premiered at Sundance.
I feel like festival films are just always better. I don't know.
I agree.
What is it about festival films?
It's because like if something blows up from a festival film, it takes so much word of mouth and it means it's that
true.
Good. You know?
That's so true. Yeah.
It premiered in January 2022, and then it worked up to a global release later that year. Actually, it got picked up by Shudder.
Oh, yep. I've heard of that.
Apparently, the casting process was really tricky for this film because of how dark the movie is, and people just literally did not want to be attached to this project.
Ooh, okay, you have my attention. Can I just say that?
Exactly. Side note, Blumhouse made a remake of the movie with Universal. That one was specifically September 2024. It starred James McAvoy?
Maybe? Why do I know that guy?
So, you know why you might know him is he played Bill in It Chapter 2.
Oh, yep. There we go. There it is.
Grown-up Bill. So, yeah, he killed it in the remake. I don't even want to hate on the remake because people get upset and usually they're not as good. But the remake is actually so different, like just plot-wise even. It goes in a totally different direction than the original. I think it's still a great movie. It was really well done. The acting is superior and everything. But what keeps my heart on the original is the message that it commits to all the way to the end. And you'll totally get what I'm saying.
Okay.
We cut to a happy family vacationing at a resort in Tuscany, Italy. Oh. This is where we meet Bjorn and Louise. They are a Danish couple and parents to their daughter Agnes. I would say they're probably in like their late 30s, late 30s, and Agnes is around 10, 11.
Okay.
She's having a fun time playing in the pool while Bjorn and Louise are relaxing poolside, scrolling on their phones and reading their books, as you do on vacation.
Yep, sounds nice to me.
A random man walks up to them. He's clearly just another guest at this spot that they're staying at, and he says to Bjorn, "I'm sorry, is this chair free?" Referring to the sun lounger next to Bjorn, where he clearly has some of like his own family's clothes and towels and magazines set aside.
Right.
There's kind of an awkward silence where Bjorn's looking at this guy like, you do see that my stuff is on this chair. But the guy just keeps staring back and patiently waiting for an answer, like so genuine and kind. So Bjorn is like, yeah, sure. And he takes his family's belongings off of the chair. And the guy's like, thank you so much. And then carries it over to his family. He also has a significant other and a child of their own, a boy that looks to be also around Agnes's age, maybe a little younger.
Okay.
And we find out that they're Dutch. So, of course, they speak Dutch, but both families can speak English. So English is used heavily in the movie just because when they're speaking to each other, that's what they use.
Makes sense.
So anyways, the Dutch man that took the Danish family's chair then immediately just jumps into the pool with his son. So like, it's kind of interesting that he so badly needed that chair with another family's belongings on it just so he could then immediately not even use it.
Yeah, what?
It's whatever. It's like, okay, little things like that happen and you're just like, whatever. I just need to tell you that I need to warn you, I think, actually, not tell you. I need to warn you. It's okay if you absolutely hate this movie. I should probably put like a little disclaimer that this is a very controversial movie as far as some people absolutely cannot stand it and hate it. And some people are like, ooh, wow, that's really interesting. Like, that's a really interesting message that it's getting across.
Okay.
So totally cool whichever side that you're on. Like, you might hate me by the end of this movie and be like, this was painful to listen to.
I'm so intrigued now though. I hope I hate it, honestly, because that would make it really fun.
It would be fun. It'd be fun to have that perspective. So we cut to Bjorn and Louise's resort room later that day, and they're heading out to dinner for the night. Agnes is staying behind with a caretaker, so it's a bit more of a formal dinner setting with like a no kids allowed policy, I think. Mm-hmm. And as Bjorn and Louise are leaving for dinner, they start talking about how they want their night to go. It seems like this vacation spot is very communal and is like more intimate than your standard resort. It's almost bed and breakfasty, and you actually really get to know the other families that are staying there at the same time as you. So Bjorn says to Louise, "Can we agree not to sit next to Hannah and Derek tonight?" Clearly a couple that they don't get along with.
They don't want to be anywhere near them. Yeah. That's so relatable.
It's so fair. Clearly a bad dinner experience earlier in their stay. And Louise just laughs at him, but he's pretty serious and continues. He's like, "I'm fed up with their cooking class." And honestly, he's so real. It's hard to like make conversation. It's giving like the type of strangers that just totally domineer a conversation and drone on and on. Yeah. Exactly. About something that like you could not care less about.
No, I know the feeling. So
like we don't care about your cooking class, Derek. Like, I've heard about it the last 5 nights.
We're all set. Thank you.
And this dinner setup that this little resort has is a nightmare to me. It is gorgeous. It's outside under this long white rectangular gazebo with pretty little light bulbs strewn up to make a pretty glow in the evening darkness. Except,
that sounds nice. Oh,
wait for it.
Wait.
The scary part to me is that it's just one big long table and all of the couples staying here are just sitting together. Truly the scariest moment of the movie.
I would just leave. I would be like, no, thank you.
It's not for me. What do you talk about? I'm so bad at small talk.
Oh, there's nothing I'm worse at. No.
And unfortunately for Bjorn and Louise, they end up sitting right across from Hannah and Derek.
Yes. Cooking class.
Yeah, exactly. The reason we know this is because it's just this random ass couple talking about a cooking class. So you're like, oh, I see. And they're trying to rope them, like Bjorn and Louise, into coming with them to their cooking class the next day.
Stop.
And Bjorn and Louise are just sitting there politely, like nodding and smiling along. And they end up being saved by the bell because that guy who took their chair at the pool earlier that day starts tapping on his glass from the other end of the table, and he stands up to make some sort of toast.
Okay.
He says to everyone, "I'm sorry to bother you during this very lovely dinner. I just want to say 2 things. I hope we didn't wake you up because the noise you heard last night, the banging on the door, that was me. We couldn't find our way, so we were very late here. I'm sorry for that." Like, the front door of this place that they're staying at. Apparently this place is small enough where you hear that in every room. They're the newest family to stay at this villa, having just arrived last night. He's really warm with his speech, continuing on about how he's just excited to get to know all the other families here. And he makes a toast to everyone at the table, to Italy, to the food, and finally, of course, to love.
I don't trust him. I'm just gonna put that out there. Wait, what do you mean you were banging on the door last night? Why were you, or was there something else banging, sir? What are you talking about?
It could be a cover-up.
That's what it feels like.
Everyone does a cheers. It's very cute. And then that night, in the middle of the night, Bjorn decides to step out onto their balcony for some fresh air. And across the way, the Dutch man, we still don't know his name, is also out on his balcony, except like he's looking like that he's looking like that standing man emoji, you know?
No, ew, no thank you.
And he's just staring dead at Bjorn, like expressionless. Ew. Totally expressionless.
I hate it.
Bjorn notices and just kind of looks around, trying to act casual, look anywhere but him, but like he's clearly uncomfortable. Especially like it's extra awkward too because Bjorn is only in his underwear.
I almost said, when you were like, he's out on the balcony, I almost said in the nude ? Because I just felt that coming. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's in his underwear, and then like the other guy is fully clothed, so it's just like, I mean, would it be better if the other guy was also in his underwear? I don't know.
No, I'm just gonna go ahead and say no.
When Bjorn looks back to see if the guy is still staring, he's just gone. So
I can feel him looking at me right now. Like, I have that feeling on my back just hearing that. I'm like, ooh. That just feels gross.
Yeah, don't look at me. I will avoid eye contact. My eyes are down when I'm around strangers.
Yeah, right? Hello. No, thank you.
The next day, Bjorn, Louise, and Agnes are out and about in Italy trying to find a nice little authentic place to go for lunch. But Agnes is distressed because she can't find Ninus, her stuffed bunny.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's like, I get it.
No, I do get it.
Yeah. I would be distressed. But Bjorn is kind of fed up. It feels like this isn't the first time that she has lost her bunny.
Oh, no.
But he goes off down the street to retrace their steps and keep an eye out to see if she dropped him somewhere. He really tries, too. He's going in circles. He's trying to talk to the locals about if they've seen it somewhere. And eventually he finds it. Ninus is sitting on a stone ledge of some like random cobble street lookout. So he snatches him up. And he heads back to his family, and when he makes it back to them, he finds that they have got company. It's the Dutch family.
Why?
They're making polite conversation. Louise actually seems to be enjoying, unlike the other couple from dinner. And Bjorn comes over excited to show Agnes what he found. She's happy. She says thank you. Proper greetings happen between the families, and we find out that the Dutch couple's names are Patrick and Karen. But when Louise asks their son what his name is, he just keeps his mouth shut and like barely looks up from the ground to look at her. Like he just comes off as extremely shy.
Mm-hmm.
So Patrick steps in for his son and he explains Abel has difficulties speaking. If he feels some sort of pressure, he can get a little insecure. The Danish family is, of course, like, oh, no pressure, no big deal. And they just move on.
Okay.
When Karen points out Agnes's bunny Ninus, asking what happened, and Louise explains that Agnes lost it, so Bjorn went to find it, and it was a whole thing. And Patrick is really impressed by this. He's like, wow, that's very heroic of you. And exactly. No, I'm
heroic?
So happy you laughed. Heroic is a strong word.
Very strong.
Bjorn agrees with us because he just looks at him like kind of with a ghost of a smile on his face, like he's not sure if Patrick is being serious or condescending right now.
Yeah, right.
And he realizes that he's serious, so he just is like, he laughs it off and says thank you. But Patrick keeps insisting, like, no, I'm serious. Respect.
Oh, okay.
Bjorn just lets the compliment sink in and gives a more serious thank you. And Patrick asks the family if they've had lunch yet. So we cut to both families sitting down to lunch together in a nice little restaurant. And Louise asks the Dutch family where exactly they're from. Karen says that they're in the southern countryside of Holland. And Louise gushes over that, wishing that she could get out of the city more. And Karen just straightforward says, well, you should come visit us.
Oh, okay.
Louise takes the offer kindly and is like, yeah, that would be great. But like, you kind of just say that to people in these situations.
For sure. I've said that a lot of times in my life.
Yep.
Sounds great. We'll meet up. It'll be, yep. Mm-hmm. No,
Never speak again.
No, we won't.
Their food arrives, and Louise has ordered a vegetarian lasagna for herself. Once everyone gets their food, Patrick asks Louise, so you're a vegetarian? And she's happy to further explain. So she says, yeah, I eat fish, but yes, I'm a vegetarian. And Patrick nods a little touched and says, that's so good. We could all learn from you. Good for the environment. And Louise nods, really happy with his reaction, and thanks him.
Okay.
And Bjorn is just thrilled at how well they're all getting along with each other and says that he thinks Dutch and Danish people mesh really well and are very similar, same humor, same culture. And Louise agrees with her husband, making a bit of a joke of it by saying, at least we have more in common with people from Holland than with Swedish people. I don't know what they got against Swedish people.
I don't know. That's an interesting comment to make. Maybe I'm uneducated. I don't know.
I know. Swedes, what are you up to over there?
Yeah, right?
But Patrick jumps in saying, I'm so glad you say that. I had a Swedish colleague when I worked for Doctors Without Borders. And Louise cuts him off like, oh my gosh, you're a doctor? And I looked it up. Or maybe I shouldn't say I looked it up because maybe I should know what this is. But Doctors Without Borders is a charity that provides humanitarian medical care. A very commendable organization to be involved with.
Right.
Patrick quickly is like, yeah, like no big deal to the doctor question, and then moves on with his story, continuing that he was the most boring and politically correct man I've ever met in my life. And Bjorn belly laughs at that, and they're just, bonding over their hatred for Swedish people, I guess.
Wow. How nice.
No, really, shout out to the Swedes. I'm sure you're great. I'm sure you're fine.
I'm trying to think of somebody from Twitch who's Swedish. Like,
Caitlin's over here low-key suspicious. Yeah.
What you guys doing over there?
But vacation comes to an end, and Bjorn, Louise, and Agnes return to their home in Denmark. I would guess.
Okay.
I know, it's really quick, the whole vacation section.
I assumed that was going to be the whole thing.
Oh, no. I would guess that a couple months actually pass before we jump into this next section, like post-vacation.
Gotcha.
And one night after Bjorn tucks Agnes into bed with a bedtime story, he shows Louise something that they got in the mail that day. And it's a letter from the Dutch family. Dear Louise, Bjorn, and Agnes, how are you? We were just talking the other day how nice it was spending time with you this summer. And even though it's been a while, we would love to invite you to come to visit us.
No.
What do you say? No.
Yeah, absolutely not.
What would you do? No.
What would you do? Period. No, actually,
yeah,
absolutely not. I am busy every day for the rest of my life. I am not gonna be able to make it.
A weekend in the Dutch countryside, food, wine, long walks. And by the way, Abel keeps mentioning Agnes. So funny. He really misses her. All the best from Abel, Patrick, and Karen.
Dude, this man stared at this other man in his underwear. Like, I don't think they should really hang out. I don't think it's necessary.
It's going to be hard. It actually was really hard for me to put down a survivability score for this movie because, first of all, if I'm being so honest, I just wouldn't go. Like, no. That's where it would end. But then I feel like too cocky, like being like, oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah, so when it gets to that point, it's like, I'm just going to say if I decided to go.
For sure.
Then from there.
For sure.
Because both of us, 100%.
I'm not going.
We got this. We're not going. So Bjorn is like, that's really nice of them. Louise agrees. And then it's quiet for a second. So like Bjorn nudges the idea along and is like, wouldn't it be fun? And Louise is on the fence and says, it's perhaps a bit too long to spend with some people we barely know.
End of story. Literally.
Exactly.
Back off.
So she brushes it off and then changes the conversation. She's like trying to buy some new clothes and shoes for Agnes and wants Bjorn's opinion, like just normal stuff. And Bjorn is half in, half out of the conversation because he's clearly thinking about the Dutch couple and he really wants to take them up on their offer.
Why, man?
I know, especially because like the weirdest thing that happened was to him. Like,
exactly.
Was he not weirded out by that? I don't know.
Like, I just feel like it's not just that a random couple's inviting me to their house in another country, but also that the vibes were just weird. So like I would be kind of creeped out, no?
I would say like the impression that we get from that opening vacation section is that it went really well and they all got along really well. But it was just that one moment that was kind of weird.
That's enough for me.
It just takes one moment for me as well. But
same. Okay.
So when he and Louise have some friends over for dinner, another couple, he brings it up to them, which, can I just say I hate this? Like, she said basically she said no, and now you're bringing it up to in front of her with another couple there. You're clearly hoping they'll be like, oh, that sounds fun, you should.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't like that tactic.
But he brings it up to them, and he says they received an invitation from some people that they met in Tuscany that summer, and their friends are like, oh, were they nice? And Bjorn agrees. So does Louise, saying, yes, very nice, and he's a doctor, which apparently makes them trust him more.
Okay.
Yeah. But she says that she's not sure, and they've already flown twice this year, and she doesn't really feel like traveling again, which twice is enough for me too, girly. I hate a plane.
It's a lot of work and a lot of money, so...
Yeah. But one of their friends suggests that they could just drive to Holland if they really wanted to, because it's only an 8-hour drive.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not. Like, I probably would drive over a plane at that point.
Yeah.
But you can see a light bulb go off in Bjorn's head at that idea. And he's like, yeah, we could make that drive, no problem. And he says, I think perhaps it would be a little impolite to decline. Also, they have a boy, Abel, and he and Agnes really hit it off, which is true. The kids really had fun with each other.
Okay, I could see justifying it for the kids.
That's the one thing. Like, I'd feel bad because I would want to provide that for my kid. Like, that could be really fun, and she had a good time with that boy, and they can play again and whatever.
Right.
He's kind of trailing off, giving Louise a look like, come on, are you still going to say no? And Louise reluctantly gives in with I guess maybe. So she's coming around to it.
Okay.
And one of their friends goes, what's the worst that can happen?
Oh, yeah. Of course they said that.
So it's official. We are going to Holland. We're in the deep countryside. Their house is surrounded by woods. I would say, of course, right?
Yep.
I would say it's a very normal house, like maybe a little run down, but nowhere near enough to look creepy in any way. Like, it just looks like a lived-in normal house.
Okay.
And Patrick and Karen come running out all excited with warm welcomes when our Danish family pulls up. Inside, the warmth continues with Karen saying that they can take their shoes off if they want, but they don't have to. She takes their coats. She apologizes for the mess. It's like nothing crazy. We're clearly in just a cozy, nice little house, and Bjorn and Louise find it very nice and comfortable.
Cute.
I know, because like half the time in horror movies, you pull up to this crazy looking place and you're like, why did you not turn around? But it doesn't give that vibe at all. Karen asks Patrick where their son Abel is, and he seems kind of unsure. And he's like, oh, downstairs maybe. And Karen thinks that answer is good enough, because then she just changes the subject right away to tell Bjorn and Louise that Patrick has been cooking all day for tonight's dinner and he's making wild boar. And we see Louise like keep her smile plastered on, but there's something in her eyes that just seems thrown off by that. Ew. Because she knows that he knows that she's a vegetarian.
Oh.
Yeah. So she's like, we spent all this time on vacation together, eating together. We've had conversations that I'm vegetarian, and then I'm going to come stay with you and you're going to give me wild boar on the first night.
Didn't he literally like praise her for that too?
Yes. Exactly. He was like, oh, that's so good. We could learn from you. Good for the environment.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those things where you just are like, whatever, it's fine. So Karen shows Bjorn and Louise to the room that they've set up for them to stay in. Nice and cozy. The bed's a little small, but like beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, right.
And then she shows them to Abel's room, where they've set up a spot for Agnes to sleep in there. And they're sitting on his bed with a little stuffed bear. And Karen says something to him in Dutch. That happens a lot, where like the families are talking to each other and there's no subtitles for me.
Oh, okay. So they're just having side conversations. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bit of separatism happening for sure in that regard. Like, you can tell by the tone sometimes you're like, are you shit talking right now, or are you saying something you don't want me to hear right now because you know I don't understand? And like the audience experiences that with them at the same time. Anyways, back to Abel sitting on his bed. He looks really sad and he just keeps his head down. Agnes says hi to him, but he doesn't pay any attention to her, which kind of disheartens Agnes.
Yeah,
because they're kids,
right?
And she says that she thinks he doesn't remember her, and just kind of hurt. But Louise assures her that he does, and he's just shy. Like, remember that he's just shy. Karen shows Agnes that they've set up a little blanket and pillow for her in the corner of Abel's room, like on the floor. I can't lie, it doesn't look too comfortable.
I mean, with kids, I guess it's fine, but I feel like usually the etiquette is to like offer the bed to the guest, or like the couch or something. Like, yeah, like more than a blanket and a pillow on the floor.
Exactly. It's like hardwood too.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I've been there, done that, and woken up like 15 times in the night. So would not recommend.
I feel like if I invited people to my house to stay, I would make sure at the very least, like I have a blow up mattress, or I tell them I don't have anything. Like, do you want to bring a sleeping bag? Like,
absolutely,
you want to figure that out so that everyone's comfortable.
Absolutely.
But Agnes just looks at her mom like, what the fuck is that? Like, she's like, I don't want to sleep there. And Karen is like, do you like it? And Louise answers for Agnes and is like, of course she does. Like, thank you. Yeah. And then more like quietly to Agnes, she's like, we'll figure it out, sweetheart. Don't worry. So that night, as Patrick is finishing up making dinner, Karen remembers that Louise gave her a little gift bag when they first arrived as like a thank you for letting them stay with them.
Oh,
She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot that you gave us a gift. And she opens it up and it's a set of little coffee mugs, and they have the Little Mermaid on them.
Oh.
I was confused at first because, of course, my mind immediately went to the Disney character.
Yeah.
They're talking about a statue called the Little Mermaid that's in Denmark, and it was built in like 1913. It is inspired by Hans Christian Andersen, like that story.
Oh, okay. I was expecting like Disney, purple, red, green, like Ariel floating around. This makes more sense.
Exactly. So Karen, first off, when she sees these coffee cups, she's like, oh, coffee cups? Like low-key, she seems unimpressed. And it's like, I could have just brought you nothing. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
And then when Patrick sees that they have the Little Mermaid on them, he's like, oh, I've heard that statue is quite small and disappointing.
Okay.
Exactly. What do you? Okay.
All right. Fine. I'll just leave then. Thank you very much.
Bjorn and Louise kind of laugh it off and like take it on the chin, but Bjorn stands up for Denmark and he goes, well, there are actually also some anecdotes about it that are really nice. And Patrick responds and is like, you know what else is really nice? Louise. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
He says it like with a weird tone and you're like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And they're just like, okay.
The number of times I would have like wanted to leave at this point is just, it's growing.
It's just gonna keep building. This movie is the definition of okay. Like, it's just, that is the feeling the whole time.
Okay.
And then Patrick cuts a piece of his wild boar that he's been working on and holds it up to Louise, saying that he insists that she have the first taste.
Why? Dude, what is your angle? What is his angle?
And she's standing there awkwardly saying no, like, that's all right, but laughing a little like, I'm good. And she doesn't want to be impolite, but like she knows that she mentioned that she's vegetarian, so this is odd. And in the end, she decides to give in and just take a small bite and tells him it's good.
Oh, no.
She's just like, oh, okay. I honestly think I would have been like, oh, no, remember, I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely.
I do like overthink about being polite for sure, but I think in that situation it's just more awkward if you don't say something.
Right. Because like what if he like, I don't know, in 5 minutes remembers and is like, oh my God, I forgot, like, or something. I don't know. Not that that makes sense, but that could happen. Also, I mean, I don't know, I'm not vegetarian, but like can't that make you like sick if you don't eat meat and then you do?
Yeah, I bet that small amount it doesn't have a major effect.
True. That's true.
Agreed. Like it could, like you never know. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, again, even just me and Caitlin are going to hang out, or we already hung out in Boston by the time you hear this.
Oh, true.
And even just you being like, I can look at restaurants and I'm like, okay, my only thing is I don't love seafood. You just want to make sure the vibe is comfortable and you both don't end up like in an awkward position when you get somewhere.
Right. Exactly. This whole thing is so weird.
We cut to after dinner and Bjorn is taking out the garbage outside. Why is Bjorn the guest taking out the garbage? I don't know.
Wait a second. Yeah, what?
Kind of wild to me. But while he's out there, Abel comes out to him and he startles him a little. But Bjorn, of course, is polite and he's like, oh, hi.
Does he take off his pants or leave those on?
They are all on. Everyone's clothed.
Okay, just gotta make sure I'm on top of that.
Abel stares at him without talking. He's almost, I think, mute.
Oh my God, wait, back up. Abel's a child. Hold on. Wait, no, I need to retract the pants statement. I forgot.
I thought you were making a joke about the whole family just like being creepy.
I thought you meant Patrick. So wait, back up. No. I retract
This little child walks up to him. Does he take his pants off?
Oh,
I'm gonna cry.
I love being good with names. I'm so good with names.
Okay. So Abel opens his mouth super wide, and Bjorn is confused at first, obviously. And then he looks into Abel's mouth and he sees that Abel doesn't have a tongue.
What?
Yeah. So Patrick suddenly knocks on the window from inside the house and yells for Abel to come back inside. And Bjorn just smiles and sends Patrick a wave. He's like, oh, this child doesn't have a tongue. Let me wave politely at the dad. Like, huh.
But also, like, when you were talking about how your kid was shy, like, I'm surprised you didn't mention, like, he can't speak. Or whatever.
Exactly.
You know, like why? Oh, okay.
You would think it would be obvious to just be like, and you got to be used to it at that point. I'm sure you get questions all the time and you know how to be like, oh, this is what it is and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Weird that that's been kept a secret this whole time.
Yeah. So later that night, the couples are up with each other hanging out after the kids have been sent off to bed, and Bjorn and Louise are talking about how their drive here was and how they definitely would have gotten lost if they didn't have their GPS. And the men kind of get into a bit of a discussion about how they think it's crazy, like how much we rely on technology these days, and they would just love if it could all stop. And throughout this whole casual conversation, we can all hear Abel crying out from his room. He's either just crying or he might be calling out mama. I can't quite tell.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it gets to the point where Louise is like, is he good? Like, is he all right?
Yeah. Do you want to address that?
Yeah. And Karen is like, oh, yeah, he's fine. He'll fall asleep in a minute. This is just part of his disease.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Do you just want to leave it there? Do you want to explain?
I would be like uncomfortable and freaked out.
Yeah, like, because that just doesn't feel right. Bjorn's like, oh yeah, he remembers something was mentioned in passing back in Italy about the disease, apparently. I think it was off camera.
Okay.
Patrick says it's called congenital aglossia, which means he was born without a tongue or a tongue much smaller than normal.
Okay.
So they say it doesn't cause him any physical pain, just that he gets frustrated a lot because it's hard for people to understand him.
Right.
So we cut to later that night when the adults go to bed, and when Bjorn checks in on Agnes, he ends up just bringing her back to their room to sleep because she just doesn't want to sleep on the floor in Abel's room.
Yeah.
Agnes doesn't seem very comfortable at this house and can't relax. She wants to keep the light on, that sort of thing.
Right.
They just assure her that everything's okay and they'll get settled in before she knows it. It's just like beginning of trip nerves meshing with new people.
Yeah. Fair enough.
The next day, the couples take their kids out to this playground in the middle of a giant field, and the couples are standing in a circle while the kids are playing, but Agnes shouts out to her mom when she's sitting at the top of the slide, clearly wanting to slide down, but Abel is sitting at the bottom of it and doesn't seem to be moving to let her go.
Okay.
So she gets her mom's attention, and Louise comes over, and Agnes tells her, Abel won't move. So Louise is like, hey, Abel, do you think that you could move out of the way? Because Agnes really wants to try the slide. And Abel just stares up at her with a blank expression. So Louise walks back over to the adults and explains the situation to Patrick and Karen really politely, just asking if they could ask Abel to move away for a second. Patrick gets this dark look on his face and storms over there.
Oh God.
Karen is like apologizing profusely for Abel's behavior, but of course Louise is like, "Oh, it's nothing." Like,
right, it's not a big deal. Just figured I'd say something.
Yeah, but cut to Patrick grabbing Abel roughly by his hood.
Oh no.
And yanking him, turning him to Agnes and yelling at him to apologize.
Oh, geez, that's a little excessive, buddy.
Yeah, Bjorn and Louise are kind of mortified and they're like, hey, no, like, it's good. It's okay.
Yeah, right?
But Patrick doesn't let up and Abel says sorry. So, like, that he can talk when he needs to, I guess, because I heard him say sorry.
Gotcha. So it's probably just like harder for him to speak, I would think, because you can't form like the certain shapes, I guess. Yeah.
And as soon as he does, Patrick's whole demeanor shifts and his shoulders relax and he smiles and he ruffles up Abel's hair lovingly before heading back to the adults. And Agnes gets to have a turn on the slide. So
oh, good. Yay. All that for a slide.
Yep. So when they all go back to the house later, Louise pulls her husband aside for a hushed conversation and just flat out says, I don't think I like being here.
Mm-hmm.
And he's totally oblivious, and he's like, oh, why not?
Oh my God, bro. Like, how about, how much time do you have?
Right? Really? She says, I just don't find them that pleasant to be around. And he sighs, but is like, okay. That's when Karen comes into the room to tell them that her and Patrick would like to invite them to dinner that night. There's apparently a really nice restaurant with great local food just up the road. And Louise is smiling and having like an internal battle about whether she should say no or not.
Yeah.
But Bjorn is like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, thanks,
Bjorn. You're really good at this.
And when Karen leaves the room, he gets sarcastic with Louise and is like, yeah, she's real unpleasant, huh? It's just like, it is the little things they build up.
Yeah.
And Louise looks at him, not really sure what to say, but like her gut feeling is definitely still there.
Right.
But he tells her they only have a day and a half left of the weekend and that she'll survive. It'll be fine.
Okay.
That night, Bjorn and Louise get Agnes all nice and dressed up for their dinner at the restaurant, and Agnes is excited to eat some French fries. She's so real for that.
Yeah, let's go.
And she sends Agnes off to go grab her coat to get ready to leave when she sees some random person walking up to the house from outside. And Abel comes walking into the room still in his pajamas as Agnes is putting her coat on, which confuses her. And she's like, isn't Abel coming too?
Yeah.
But Louise doesn't have time to consider the answer because the doorbell chimes and Karen comes bustling into the room all chipper and is like, yes, perfect timing. She opens the door and starts talking in Dutch to this man, letting him in and being super casual, like totally dismissive of Louise standing to the side, not knowing who this man is and why he's here. But then this guy turns to Louise, still speaking Dutch, and introduces himself. And Louise picks up on his name and returns the courtesy. And then Karen cuts in and is like, yeah, he doesn't speak any English. And Louise is like, okay, so who is he?
Why don't you, expand upon this situation, please?
And Karen's like, oh, he's the babysitter.
Oh, and no.
Louise is just like, what the fuck? What do you mean the babysitter? So she asks, she's like, but the kids are coming with tonight, right? And Karen's like, no kids tonight. Didn't I tell you that?
Absolutely. No, I'm not leaving my child with a strange man of what is already a strange family.
Exactly. So Agnes is confused too and asks if they're leaving soon. This guy's name is, let me try to say it, Muhajid, I believe.
Okay.
So the babysitter, Muhajid, kind of pulls Agnes aside and seems to have a genuinely really nice energy. He's being very expressive and acting like he's ready to like play with them. And he seems to have good energy even though he can't speak English and like connect with her daughter in that way.
Right.
And Karen is just reassuring Louise, like, he's great with kids. The whole neighborhood uses him, and not just because he's cheap. And it's like, oh.
Why is he cheap?
So now at this point, Patrick is already outside and getting the car started. Karen heads out too, and then Louise and Bjorn are just left inside staring at this guy interacting with their daughter. He's doing like visual magic tricks and stuff and like pulling stuff from behind her ears and like...
Okay.
He seems
I'm
not
trying to be judgmental, but like I'm not leaving my child with a man that I don't know. It's just it's not happening.
And it's not even about horror movie context to me. Like it's just like you could seem like the nicest guy ever. I don't care. I'm not gonna do that.
Absolutely not.
I wouldn't leave my dog with a random nice guy.
Right? Right?
No. Patrick honks the horn from outside and yells for them to come out so they can get going. So Bjorn and Louise are feeling rushed and pressured and they decide to go.
Man, I understand it. I'm not going to judge them too hard, but
yeah, because I feel like I can relate to the people pleaser aspect of these two.
Absolutely. It's super awkward and you don't want to be like, oh, I'm not doing that. You don't want to like start anything. So like I get it.
My fear of confrontation understands.
In
the car ride, Patrick is driving with Karen in the passenger seat while Louise and Bjorn are sitting in the back. And Patrick and Karen are just having a full-on conversation and laughing with each other in Dutch, completely like ignoring Bjorn and Louise.
Weird.
Yeah, and I guess the drive is a little longer than anticipated as well, because at one point Bjorn asks if they're going to be at the restaurant soon, and Karen promises they'll be there in a minute. Eventually they get there. I don't know how long it was, but definitely not just up the road.
Yeah. Okay.
They make it there, and we cut to the couple seated in a pretty empty, like borderline dingy restaurant. I personally think it's kind of a vibe, and it's cozy with a lot of character, but I think you're supposed to not take that from it. I think it's supposed to be a little weird. They're all looking over the menu, and Louise is getting a little frustrated because she can't read the menu because it's all in Dutch. She asks what the Stamppot is, and Patrick explains that it's incredible, the house specialty. He says they would love it, but Bjorn wants to find something on the menu that has like a real explanation as far as what it actually is.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
So he asks about another dish, and Patrick is like, oh, that's also Stamppot. You'll love it.
Oh, so helpful.
Louise says to Bjorn in Danish, she's like, is the entire menu Stamppot? Like, what's going on? They still don't even know what Stamppot is. So Bjorn asks Patrick to explain, and he's like, oh, it's a super traditional Dutch dish with potatoes and vegetables, and you're supposed to literally stamp it all together. And then he calls over to the waiter, and he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it for you guys. Like, he's going to order for them.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm just worried because of the vegetarian thing, too.
So the waiter comes over, and Patrick fires off in Dutch, ordering for everyone. And at the end, though, Louise makes sure to add on as a reminder that she's vegetarian.
Good. Okay.
Go, girls. Stand up for yourself. Don't be scared.
Exactly.
And Patrick's like, I'm sorry. And she says, I don't eat meat. And a light bulb seems to pop on for him. He's like, oh, yeah, yes. Like, so good for the environment. But you eat fish, right? Like, he's remembering this conversation.
Okay.
She says yes, and then he decides to correct her and goes, so you're not a vegetarian, you're a pescatarian.
Okay, let's do that, sir. Thank you.
Exactly. Like,
Thank
okay,
you, sir.
Obviously, technically, sure, but why do you need to do that?
Why do you care?
So you can tell she's annoyed at the correction, but she agrees. Like, okay, yes, I guess so. And then he shouts something out to the waiter in Dutch, and we have no idea what he said, but then he quickly focuses on Louise again and challenges her, and he goes, fish isn't meat? And she's like, well, of course it is, but it's just better for the environment. And then Patrick can't shut up, and he goes, and the way the fishing industry works and how we treat the oceans is not affecting the climate.
Bro, what is your issue right now?
Exactly. It's out of nowhere. It's uncomfortable.
And you're not vegetarian, so why do you care?
Yeah, why are you so passionate about this when you're out here cooking up a wild boar?
Literally. You have no ground to stand on here, buddy.
No. So it's uncomfortable at the table now, and Patrick is just smiling at her like, haha, got you there. Like, it seems like he thinks it's all lighthearted fun, but you know it's not. Like,
no, not with an issue like that. Like, that's just extremely obnoxious.
Yeah, it's very awkward. But Bjorn tries to brush past it all by proposing a toast to good times, because this is such a good time. And Louise takes a big ass drink of her wine after that. So we cut to later into the dinner. Their food is all there, and there's music playing in the restaurant. Did I say there's like no one else in this restaurant?
You said it was pretty empty.
Yeah,
is nobody there?
Nobody's there except like the staff.
I'm so concerned about the end of this dinner. I'm just going to put that out there to the universe. I am concerned.
Patrick is up and dancing around with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he grabs Karen and starts dancing with her, and they really get into it. Like, it becomes very sensual.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's
Bjorn
cool.
And like, do you, I guess?
But do you in private? Like, get a room.
Exactly. Bjorn and Louise are left like at the table, just kind of awkwardly laughing. The amount of awkward laughter is off the charts in this movie. It's just all awkward laughter.
I don't blame them.
But then Bjorn decides to just say fuck it and stretches his hand out to Louise, inviting her to go dance with him. And they head over to Patrick and Karen and start dancing too. But then Patrick and Karen start aggressively making out and touching each other and full on moaning.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. I'm just going to put this out there. I'm afraid.
I feel unsafe. Mom, come pick me up.
Literally.
So obviously Louise and Bjorn are like, okay, well, we're not going to match that energy. But once again, they're uncomfortable. Like they try to get into it. They try to be like, what, you know what? Let's loosen up. Let's dance.
Yeah,
and then
like live life a little, but
and then immediately becomes
much.
uncomfortable again. Like what are we supposed to do here? So cut to the end of the dinner and they receive the check from the waiter and Patrick looks at it and is like, wow, someone had a really good time tonight. And then he stares at Bjorn with like an expectant smile.
Ew, what?
So Bjorn's like, oh, like, do you want us to pitch in? And Patrick goes, oh, thanks, man. And then he hands him the check and just stands there with zero intention to pull his own wallet out.
What?
Yeah. And so Bjorn's kind of confused and asks, so the dinner is on us? And Patrick is touched and he's like, oh, that's so kind. Thanks, man. Thanks.
I need to leave. Like, I'm not there, but I need to leave right now.
It's just, that's like not even, they're different from us. They're just different. You know, I feel like a lot of these things so far, like, they're different. They're not like us. This is just rude.
Incredibly so.
Yeah. So he like gives him a pat on the shoulder and just walks off and Bjorn pays for everything. The sighs are so real.
We're just like, no.
The drive back home is horrendous. Patrick is drunk and swerving all over the road.
Oh, hell no.
And he puts this cassette into the car and blasts music crazy loud. It's so bad that our little people pleasers in the back actually ask him to turn it down.
Wow.
But Patrick completely ignores the request and just screams back at them all hyped up, I love this song. This is a great song. At one point, it gets to the point where Louise literally screams at him, turn down the fucking music.
Yes, girl.
Yes. And Karen just laughs and Patrick keeps telling them to just listen to it. But Karen eventually is like, okay, come on, turn it down, honey. And he turns it off and Karen apologizes, saying he's just a little drunk and having a good time. And she gets genuine, is like, sorry, like, I'm truly sorry.
I gotta say, like, horror movies are scary, but this sounds like my worst nightmare. This entire trip.
Exactly. This feeds into my worst, like, daily struggles almost, like constantly just like trying to fit into other people and like not be in the way. And then it's just the overthinker, people pleaser in me.
Absolutely.
Like, that's something I actually deal with. It's not fantasy, like horror fantasy.
Right. And like, and the anxiety side of it, like I can just like, I like have that feeling in my chest right now, just thinking about being in those shoes. And I'm just like, yeah. I would be, oh God, full on panic attack, quite frankly.
Yes,
like that sounds horrifying.
But even Patrick like jumps in with the apologies, like a genuine apology as well. So then it's just like, okay. It's annoying because like it almost makes our Danish couple feel like, oh, did we just overreact? Because they screamed like, turn down the fucking music, like what the hell? And then they when they do, they're like, I'm so sorry, like I was just having a good time, like. And it makes that you like feel bad, like, sorry. It's so weird.
Yeah, there's a word for that and it's escaping me at the moment. But yeah, like making it feel like it's on them, making them feel guilty, even though like just turning it around on them, essentially.
Turning it around and getting all nice and apologetic right away. And it feels so genuine. So then it's like, okay, it's weird. So there's this silent moment where the apology really sinks in and Louise nods, accepting the apology because it's just awkward if you don't. But then immediately Patrick starts laughing up a storm again and turns the music back on just as loud as before.
Oh my God.
I know. And then they're yelling over the music like, please, for real, just turn it down a little, just a little bit.
Oh my God.
And Patrick and Karen start mocking them to each other, being like, turn it down just a little, just a little.
Ew. Oh my God. Ew. I'm like so uncomfortable right now.
Yes.
I actually hate this. If it weren't for the kid, I would be like, pull the car over or just jump out the freaking car at this point. I'm also starting to be a little freaked out. Because now they're acting particularly weird.
Yeah, like to the point of they're making you feel unsafe.
Yes.
Like the swerving and everything. And like you're not focusing on the road, the music, like.
And the mocking, like now I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, like are you a grown adult?
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
Somehow they make it back home safely and both kids are sleeping sound in Abel's room, thankfully.
Oh.
Yeah, the babysitter was legit.
I was not expecting that. I'm not going to lie.
The kids add such an interesting element to this whole movie. Like, I love the choice of having kids be a part of it because it just heightens everything and makes you extra worried. And it makes you stay when maybe you shouldn't because, like, they're having a good time. But yeah, they're fine. They had a good night. Louise is relieved seeing that Agnes is all right, and she feels like she smells smoky. And so she tells Bjorn that she's going to go have a quick shower before bed. So she's in the shower. And while she's in there,
why are you giggling? Stop giggling. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why is this funny to you? She's literally just taking a shower. She's gonna get out and she's gonna go to bed. That's what's gonna happen. Like, stop.
She's in the shower, and while she's in there, she hears the bathroom door open and close, and it's Patrick.
Okay.
And he just comes in and brushes his teeth, and then he walks all around the bathroom while he's brushing his teeth, and at one point he's standing like right up against the shower, blocking.
Ew.
Yes, blocking the light from like above the sink shining into it. So she's just standing in darkness of like his silhouette. And he takes his time. He just takes his time brushing his teeth and then he just leaves.
This is such a wild experience for me. Can I just say, like, I don't feel like I get as scared watching horror anymore. Right now, I'm legitimately terrified.
Yeah. Like, it just feels so real. Like, so what would you do? This is a perfect what would you do?
Would I say anything? No. If I'm in the shower, I'm just gonna hope it. Although, if he's standing right up against the shower, I might say, like, Patrick? Like, just with a little question mark, just be like, hey, like, just see if he responded. If he didn't, I'm literally waiting for him to leave and, like, absolutely leaving right after that.
Yeah.
Because at this point, that's weird.
Yeah. It's one of those showers, too, where it's not a curtain. It's like glass.
A glass. That's what I was picturing. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be so, like, one of my like random fears is being attacked while I'm in the shower, because when you're in the shower you're so vulnerable. Like,
so vulnerable. Yeah,
you're obviously naked. There's no good weapons in sight. You're slipping around. Like,
yep.
So that's so scary for someone to just walk in like that. I'd be so scared. But I don't know if I might say something like as soon as I hear the door, I might be like, oh, someone's in here.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
But I don't know. I wonder how he probably would have been like, oh, it's just me. Like, what do you mean it's just you? Get out.
But then I would actually feel okay, though. Like, if he's like, oh, it's just me, like, I'm brushing my teeth. It's like, okay. But, like, if you're just walking in, and because I would expect him to walk in and be like, hey, just gonna brush my teeth real quick. Like, just say something. That's true. What I would expect that.
Because then I would feel weirded out, but not fearful.
Exactly. The silence is too much.
Yes. So, yeah, Louise is just in there the whole time, like in shock and confused and kind of scared. And she immediately gets out when Patrick leaves and hurries back to bed with Bjorn. She doesn't say anything to him about what happened. She just like, which I would be yapping. I'd be like, you won't believe what just happened. What the hell was that? But she just like cuddles up against him. I think she just needs comfort. And I think it's probably because she's like, I'm overthinking. I'm uncomfortable.
See, that's why I feel like I would actually probably not say anything either. If I was deciding to stay, which again, at this point, I do feel like I would like want to leave. Although the overthinking would be going on in my head. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't want to add to the panic of it if I was going to choose to stay. Yeah. And also, like, the awkwardness of it being a man walking into the room while you were naked in the shower.
Yep.
It's like, also, like, do I even want to bother bringing this up right now?
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, is Bjorn going to, like, overreact and, like, go confront Patrick right now? Do I want to deal with that? No, I don't know. Ooh, this is interesting.
Oh my gosh.
I'm intrigued.
The mind spiral is real on that one. I see it now. I have to admit, like, on my watch, I'm like, oh my God, I would say something, but that totally makes sense to me as to why you would keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
So she just cuddles up against him, and then the cuddles end up turning into them having sex.
Okay.
I find it odd. And this situation in this movie, it's not how it goes down in the remake. And it's the one thing that I 100% prefer in the remake, because I just don't think, with how uncomfortable this couple is right now, and you're in this place that isn't, comfortable to you, and your daughter is down the hall, and I would just feel like these characters wouldn't decide to just have sex under these people's roof.
I agree. Like, for even if things were going well, if you're just like, I don't know, in a bed that they set aside for you in a random room on a 2-day vacation, I'm thinking I'm gonna just, I'll hold off. I'll hold off for the weekend. Added to it all the weird stuff. Yeah. That's a weird decision.
Like, I don't want to be distracted. Low-key, I probably don't even want to sleep under their roof right now.
Right?
So,
Literally,
like, I want to be on alert, you know?
For sure.
But then, okay, so it gets worse. So then while they're having sex.
Yay. Oh, while they're having sex? Good.
Yes, it's still going. Agnes calls out for her mom, for Louise. And she's calling out, I think, from the hall, maybe from her room. And she wants to like come in and sleep in bed with them again. Like she's again not comfortable. When they got home, she was sleeping, so like they just let her stay sleeping.
Yeah.
But now she's woken up, she knows that they're back, and she's like, "Oh, I want to come in." She keeps calling out, and they just decide to ignore her and keep having sex.
No, there's no way. No way, dude.
What parent would do that in this situation? And they're not set up to be like lousy parents at all.
And not to mention, like, if I had left my kid with this like strange babysitter person, which again like seemed fine, like I would actually be wanting to talk to my child, be like, so what happened while I was gone? Like, what did you do while I wasn't here? I would be like, oh, she's up, let's talk to her.
Yeah, I don't agree with actions like that. The writers put the characters in the situation.
Like, the character suddenly has an out of character moment.
Yeah. But at one point during, okay, so they're still doing it. And then at one point during it, there's this window in their room that looks out into the hall, but it's like stained glass. So,
okay, yeah,
you get it. And Bjorn sees Patrick's silhouette looking in on them. He's just watching them.
Ew, I hate Patrick, dude. I really don't like this man.
But again, Bjorn just keeps going.
What? No, now they're dumb. Now they're dumb. I've lost all faith. I've lost all faith.
The anger sets in.
I am angry at this point. Come on.
Yep. This is the point where I'm like, okay, I just really don't like this part because I'm just like, how you're just going to keep going through your daughter calling for you. You're just going to keep going and not say anything ever about the guy looking in and watching. Like, what are you thinking?
Ooh. I literally have like chills. Like, I don't like this.
I think the point is that they're so hyper people pleasers, so hyper fear of confrontation. Like, that's the point. But I'm like, really?
Even if that is the point, I'm at least stopping what I'm doing in the moment now. Because there's a man in the hallway. It's like, oh, hey, honey, somebody's watching us. Why don't we just, roll over and go to sleep, maybe? At the very least.
Yep. So we cut to later in the night when they've both fallen asleep, but Louise wakes back up and she decides to now go check on Agnes.
Oh, yeah, now. Good timing.
Exactly. But when she goes into Abel's room, she's not there. So she ends up checking Patrick and Karen's room, and Agnes is asleep with them in their bed. Patrick's bare ass is out. They're both naked.
What? No. Oh my God, help. SOS.
So of course Louise is just like, what the fuck? Grabs Agnes and then hurries back to Bjorn, wakes him up, fills him in, and says that she wants to go home now.
Yeah, okay. I'm a few steps late, but at least we're doing it.
Yeah. I don't think it was implied that anything inappropriate other than the fact that they're sleeping naked with her.
Yeah. Right.
Nothing beyond that happened. But it's still like, what in the world?
There's no excuse for that. Regardless.
Yeah. So she's like, let's pack our things. Let's get out of here right now before they even wake up. Like, we're gone.
Oh, wait. She didn't wake them up in all this?
No, Patrick and Karen didn't wake up. She just scooped Agnes out of their bed and went running.
Oh, I'm surprised she didn't like whip on the lights and start screaming. But again, right? I guess they're people pleasers, so
yeah. No, that would be so me. I wouldn't start screaming. I would definitely, just like we talked about in Psycho, where I'm like, when Norman's in the house, I'd just get out of there, be out of the situation before he comes back, because I don't want to face that confrontation. I do the same thing here, where it's like, let's just sneak out of here. Let's just leave and never think about this again.
I want to say that, like, I would do that, but at the same time, like, now there are two grown adults naked in bed with my child. And I feel like at that point, like, that there's gonna be an element of no, fuck this. Like,
yeah, like a
get
snap.
up and exactly. Explain to me what the hell is going on here. Because even though, again, like you said, it's not implied that there's anything inappropriate or anything, like, I'm still going to be concerned about such a thing. So I don't know. I feel like I'm making some noise. I feel like at that point. That would be the final straw for me.
Yeah. I think the noise I would make would be get out first and then just call the police and be like, you gotta check out these people.
That's also fair.
But also I'd be like, is that dramatic? It's like, oh, it just...
No, I know.
You get it.
No, I do get it. I do get it.
Anyways, so they do. They get packed up. They get into their car and they drive away.
Wow. Okay.
We are probably 5 minutes away from the house, maybe, if I had to guess, when Agnes starts asking, wait, where's Ninos?
Oh,
her stuffed rabbit. Not the stuffed rabbit. It's a whole thing.
Funny. So wait, they've driven like the 8 hours essentially? Is that what you're saying?
They're like 5 minutes away from Patrick.
They've only driven 5 minutes. I thought
just
they
left.
drove 7 hours and 55 minutes.
No, and had like 5 minutes left. No. They're just 5 minutes in.
They're just 5 minutes away from the house. Okay.
So yeah, it's a whole thing. They search the car and all of their suitcases, but in the end, they realize that it must have been left back at the house.
Of course it has.
So Agnes is really upset, but Louise gets stern with her and is like, no, we'll buy a new Ninos. Ninos lives with Abel now. He will be fine.
Oh, okay.
And Agnes doesn't throw a tantrum, but like she cries because she's sad, you know?
Yep.
And Bjorn looks at her in his rearview mirror and it just eats away at him seeing her cry like that.
Oh, no. He's
so
going to do the heroic thing. No.
He wants to be a hero.
Oh.
So he decides to turn around the car and head back to the house to retrieve the stuffed rabbit.
And this is where all the shit goes down, I'm sure.
When they pull up back at the house, Louise and Agnes stay in the car while Bjorn goes inside to get it.
Oh, God.
And as soon as he's gone, Agnes excitedly notices that Ninos got shoved under the passenger seat.
No.
And she grabs him up all excited, and Louise is just sitting there like, you're actually kidding me?
No.
So Louise tells Agnes to stay in the car because now she's got to head inside to tell Bjorn so they can quickly get going again.
Oh my God. Okay, let's go.
She follows voices to the kitchen where it seems like Bjorn and Patrick have just started talking. Explanations needing to be had and everything. Karen enters the room totally oblivious to what's going on, and she asks Patrick, like, what's going on? She just woke up, and Patrick's like, well, it appears someone left without saying goodbye. And Bjorn stays polite, and he's like, no, I was just telling Patrick that we had some lovely days here, and Patrick cuts him off very salty and is like, well, then I ask again, why are you leaving?
Oh God, it's just socially awkward.
It's just like, yeah, and for me, I just don't vibe with the kind of people that would need a reason. Like, I'm uncomfortable. That's good enough. Goodbye. Like, let me go. Because it's weird if you don't. Bjorn tries to keep it vague, saying that some things that have happened have led them to believe that it's best if they just go home. Obviously, Patrick isn't just going to accept that. He pushes them. Yup.
He likes to push.
Bjorn's like, well, the bed is really small and Agnes doesn't want to sleep on the floor.
I would have maybe been like, oh, Agnes woke up and wasn't feeling well or something. Like, maybe that would have been a good excuse to use. And like, oh, she was feeling sick.
No, that's a good one. That's a good on your feet explanation. Because like him just being like, the bed's small and Agnes keeps sleeping with us because she doesn't want to sleep on the floor. Like, it kind of makes you feel bad.
Right.
I don't know.
I feel like that's the best sneaky way to get out of it, to be like, because if you were like, oh, she came into our room and said she was like really feeling sick, so we're taking her home. Or like whatever, because then you can also skip over the whole found you. If you're at this point, you haven't brought it up, like found her in your bed, which is super weird.
And he looks to Louise, like, because Louise has walked in, you know, at this point and is seeing everything. So it's like just the couple standing in the kitchen. He looks to Louise to help him out here because he's like, what should I say? And she says, okay. With all of your respect, first of all, I'm a vegetarian, but all you've been doing since we got here is serve meat. And Patrick, of course, looks very empathetic and is acting just totally oblivious and says that they have all sorts of food and she can have a hagelslag sandwich right now if she wanted, which I know what that is. I'm so proud of myself.
I don't.
A hagelslag it's because one of my besties is Dutch. And she would eat it growing up. It's like basically a piece of buttered bread topped in these chocolate sprinkle things, but they're not chocolate sprinkles. They're hagelslag, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if she wants to just live off that the whole steak.
Yeah, no.
But anyway.
That doesn't sound super nutritious.
Yeah. So Louise is like, yeah, no thanks. And then she continues on and she's like, And last night at that restaurant or roadhouse or whatever that place was, it was very uncomfortable to drive, and the music was so loud, and you were drinking and driving, and the way you were touching each other in front of us, that just made me so uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I'm really sorry, but it's just that so many things have felt so wrong. It's just how it is.
Okay, yes, girl.
Go off.
She is really standing up for herself now, and we love to hear it.
So Patrick and Karen are both quiet and appear to be very hurt, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick is like, I'm in shock. And Karen seems pretty uncomfortable, but very hesitantly, she's like, can I say something?
Oh, God.
So first of all, yeah, that's exactly right. So first of all, Louise, I'm terribly sorry that we forgot you were a vegetarian. And if there are things you don't eat, you could have just told us.
Except I know you didn't forget.
Exactly. And our house is not huge, so we cannot offer you a big luxury room and a king-size bed, Bjorn. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. Now, yeah, whatever.
And I'm truly sorry that Agnes doesn't feel comfortable staying in Abel's room, but we thought it was only natural. If only you knew how much Abel was looking forward to sharing his toys in his room with Agnes. And the roadhouse, as you call it, the hugging and the dancing, we were just having a fun evening, guys. Like, come on, what is the problem?
Oh, yeah, okay. You're right. You know what? You're right. I'm overreacting.
They're so good at it. Because honestly, it's frustrating because we know that it's weird. But like, they're so good at being like, you're making something out of nothing.
Yeah. I'm absolutely like in this situation going to second guess like we've been talking about the whole time. Like, oh, maybe I am being ridiculous.
Yep. So Louise stands strong though and says, to me, it's crossing a line when you pick up my daughter at night and then take her into your bed where you sleep next to her naked.
Yes. Period.
So then Karen goes,
oh no.
Yeah, but where were you, Louise? I mean, Agnes kept calling. She was crying.
It's true.
Exactly. That's why I hate it. Like, it's still not okay. Like, what you should do is knock on their bed, be like, I don't know why they can't hear, but there's something wrong with their daughter. So that you can get their attention and help the daughter get to them, not take her into your bed.
Yeah, no.
But then also it's like, yeah, they should have.
They should have.
And so it's like, okay, now you're making me feel guilty about that, which I kind of low-key should be.
Mm-hmm.
So Louise doesn't have anything to say to that. And after a hefty silence where she's like opening her mouth, closing her mouth, about to say something, is like, I don't know what to say. Patrick steps in saying, there's nothing we can do now to change the way you felt these past few days. It truly breaks my heart to hear that you haven't enjoyed your stay. It makes me wonder if maybe I failed as a host. No one is forcing you to stay, but I really hope you do because today is going to be a great day. Like, I have things planned.
Where's my bunny? And I'm leaving.
Right? Bjorn and Louise decide to stay.
No, they fucking don't, though.
Oh my God. I wrote into my recap, pause. Do you have any understanding here for their decision, or are you crazy frustrated right now that they're staying?
Crazy frustrated.
Because it's like the safety of my child at this point. Like, I don't trust you around my child now.
No, exactly. I feel like that's the intention for the children being a part of it too. Is like, like you said, it heightens everything.
Yeah.
Because you have a child to look out for other than just yourself.
Yeah. So we literally cut to Louise helping Karen with yard work.
They stayed to do yard work. No, I can't. I actually can't at this point.
Taking out the garbage, doing all the yard work.
Oh my God.
Agnes and Abel are playing around with a soccer ball outside. And meanwhile, Bjorn and Patrick are out driving somewhere. We don't know where yet, but I can't lie. Patrick's kind of funny because in the awkward silence in the car with Bjorn, he goes, is it okay if I turn on the radio? Like, super polite. And Bjorn's like, yeah, like, of course, yes. Because it's really awkward right now in this silence. Please turn on the radio.
Yeah.
And then he turns it on, but he turns it on super, super quiet. Like, you can barely hear it.
Oh my God. Bro.
So Bjorn's like, you can turn it up. Fine.
Stop.
So then he turns it up to a normal level. They start bonding over music, like realizing they apparently have very similar tastes. And something I notice in little conversations throughout the movie, specifically between these two men, is that Bjorn absolutely lights up when he gets any approval from Patrick.
Oh.
Patrick's approval makes him feel good about himself. I think it's like a approval from men, like fellow man type of thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think he feels like, I don't know if he's at a point in life for some reason where he feels like demasculated. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really getting enjoyment out of the way that Patrick is just like, doesn't give a fuck, is very free and like, I don't know, a domineering man. And he like enjoys getting that approval from him. And it's so frustrating.
I see it.
That's like part of the reason why he stays is he wants that relationship to be good.
Oh, yikes.
So then at one point, Patrick puts on a traditional Dutch song that he really likes, and it's kind of this soft ballad. And he starts serenading Bjorn, and it's awkward. Like Bjorn's just standing there or like sitting in the passenger seat, like looking over, like weird. Anyways, it always gets weird.
Always.
They have a moment of bonding and then it gets weird.
Apparently. Jeez.
They finally get to their destination. It's a desolate rock quarry. And before...
Okay. I just have so many questions that do not have answers.
You don't take like guests that come and visit to rock quarries ever?
I don't think I ever have, actually. Believe it or not.
Before getting out of the car, Patrick apologizes again about everything to Bjorn, wanting to clear the air, and Bjorn accepts the apology and really just wants to move past it all. So Patrick gets all deep with him and is like, you know, sometimes I have this thing right here. And he points to his chest, like his heart.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's so powerful and wild, and I like it. That's the weird part. I really like it. And Bjorn really connects with him on this. He like wholeheartedly agrees.
Wait, what are we getting at?
Exactly. Like, what are they? It's giving, oh my God, do you know the meme, like holding space?
Yes.
Do you know? It's giving like getting emotional over something that you're not quite sure what it actually is. It's implying.
Yep, I see what you mean.
But Bjorn is like, I know exactly what you mean. Like, normally I just try to hold it down or keep it in chains because there's too many rules, I guess. But it's claustrophobic. It's like I've become this person that I don't want to be. He feels like he's in the machine. He's one of a billion, and he really feels that.
Okay, yeah.
And he starts to tear up, and he goes on describing how mundane he feels like he is and his life is, and he's tired of smiling all the time. Like he's really run down by life, which is sad.
Yeah.
Patrick nods in understanding and tells Bjorn to follow him because he wants to show him something.
Nope.
They walk up to the top edge of this rock quarry, and Patrick just screams at the top of his lungs. Yeah. And he encourages Bjorn to do the same, which he does. So they're both just screaming. I can't lie. I would love to.
Yeah, no, that would be fun.
I would love to find a spot where I can just scream. I think
that would be so fun.
Very therapeutic.
Absolutely.
So honestly, this little trip they take together really loosens Bjorn up a lot, and him and Patrick just seem closer than ever now.
Mm-hmm.
Later that day, while everyone's pitching in to make lunch, Patrick makes sure to thank Louise for helping out in the yard that day. And everything is honestly more harmonious than ever right now.
Of course it is.
So you know what that means. Something's about to happen.
See, I thought it was all going to happen like the night before, but no.
Bro, I think that's why some people hate this movie, is because it just keeps dragging out that back and forth.
Yeah, it definitely is doing that.
Yeah. So while the adults are working on lunch, Abel and Agnes come running over all excited. They've just been playing together, and Agnes asks if they can perform a dance for them. Of course, you got to do it. Yeah. It's not childhood without doing that.
Yup, I've done that many a time.
And the plan is that the kids will perform the dance for them after lunch. While they're still working on lunch, Louise accidentally cuts her finger with a knife, and she runs it under cold water, and Bjorn's like, oh, hey, Patrick, could you take a look? Because they know from the Italy trip that Patrick is a doctor.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
So Patrick takes her hand in his and checks it out and asks if she's okay. And Bjorn's like, oh, thank God we have a doctor in the house. And Patrick goes, I'm not a doctor.
Wait.
And it's the return of the awkward silences. And Louise goes, but didn't you say you were a doctor? He literally did. Like in Italy, he mentioned working at the Doctors Without Borders.
Right.
And she was like, oh, you're a doctor? And he was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Like, because I could see if they had just like made that assumption, like he worked for Doctors Without Borders, but like did something else within
Yeah.
You know?
Nope. It wasn't an assumption. He literally said yes to, are you a doctor?
Okay.
So now they're like, what? And they tell him, like you said, you were a doctor. And Patrick's like, did I? And they're looking at him like, yeah.
Yeah, you did actually.
And he goes, oh, I lied. Back up.
Silly me.
Back up, sir. Like dropping it so casually.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sometimes I get a little insecure when I meet new people.
I don't think that's true. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, you'll do and say anything. You do not care what people think.
Right.
So Karen backs him up and she says, he just wanted to make a good impression. So like, okay, cool. That's great.
No, that's not how you make a good impression by lying.
Bjorn asks, what do you do for work then? And Patrick goes, oh, I don't work. I've never worked. I don't believe in working.
Oh, well, you have a house and you live in it. So like,
where's the money coming from?
Where's your money?
So, all right. Meanwhile, Agnes is setting the table and Karen is over there and she keeps correcting her, like telling Agnes that she's setting it wrong and just being weirdly picky. And Agnes apologizes and keeps trying. It's weird for you even to be picky like that with your own child, but like, why are you picking on mine?
Yeah, no, should not be doing that.
Yeah. So we cut to everyone sitting down for lunch, and Patrick is going on a tangent about how Holland cheese should be more globally recognized. I don't know. Patrick's always going on a tangent.
For sure, Patrick. Totally agree.
But what our eyes are drawn to is Agnes spilling a little bit of food on her lap, and like Karen cleans it up for her and then like dabs at Agnes's face. And Louise is watching like, why are you fussing over my child right now? Like, it's just kind of weird. And then Karen starts talking to Agnes in Dutch. And it sounds like Agnes, first of all, I'm confused because Agnes can't speak Dutch. I think their languages are similar where you can pick up on some words.
Okay, yep, I could see that, yeah.
But why are you talking to her in Dutch instead of English? That's weird.
Yeah.
And then also you can tell by the way she's talking that she's like getting strict with Agnes.
Ooh.
Like parenting her, it sounds like.
Yeah, no. Don't be doing that.
Finally, it gets to a point where Louise is like, stop telling my daughter what to do.
Right.
And it creates an awkward silence, the 50th of the movie. And yet again, Louise repeats it like really frustrated and is like, it's not up to you to tell my daughter what to do, okay? So Karen becomes very stiff and reserved at Louise's frustration, which, by the way, I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, oh, whoa. I was like, I'm so chill and you're blowing up on me.
Yeah,
like, ugh.
Not that again.
You're out here poking the bear. Don't act like you're not.
Exactly.
But yeah, Karen is like, relax. I'm sorry. So, okay. Whatever. After lunch, it's time for Agnes and Abel to perform their little dance. So the adults are sitting on the couches in the living room watching, and it's easy to tell that here, specifically, that Agnes is a little bit older because she's clearly the one that choreographed the dance. She is on beat and she is having fun. Abel's having fun too, but he's having a little trouble keeping up with the steps.
Okay.
It's all really cute though. Apparently Patrick doesn't agree with me on that one because he stops the music, he calls Abel out and starts talking to him in Dutch and just seems annoyed, like he's not doing it right.
No.
Yeah.
I just can't. I simply cannot with this.
And he apologizes to Bjorn and Louise. Like, oh, it's the vibe of like, sorry, my son's an idiot. Like that's the vibe.
Living room performance?
Yeah. And then he starts up the music again and he counts them in with like a 1, 2, 3, 4.
It is not that serious.
Take a seat, Abby Lee Miller. So as the kids start dancing again, he's yelling orders over the music now and like getting frustrated when Abel doesn't listen, and he stops the music again, yells at him in Dutch. Bjorn interjects, which usually it's Louise that is the one to stand up.
Yeah.
Bjorn interjects saying that it's all good and that both of the kids are doing great. And Patrick's like, yeah, but Abel has no rhythm at all and he's messing up the routine.
Oh my God, it's a living room performance. Calm down.
Bjorn says what we're all thinking, and he goes, okay, but they're just kids. Patrick agrees that yes, they're just kids, but if he wants to reach his potential, he has to concentrate. So he gives Abel some more orders and is like, okay, one more time. Starts the music. It doesn't take long. Patrick turns off the music again and stomps over to Abel, yelling at him right up in his face. And then he grabs his feet and starts moving them himself, like angrily showing him like how easy it should be.
Weird.
And then he grabs Abel's face and neck and roughly forces him to look at Agnes, saying like, watch Agnes, watch Agnes.
Okay.
Yeah. This all makes Agnes super uncomfortable. And she walks over to Louise, like her mom, and is like, I don't want to dance anymore. But Patrick freaks out at that too, saying, no, she has to stay. It's a duet. Louise fights back, saying she doesn't have to do anything. Like, don't tell my daughter what to do once again. And her and Patrick go back and forth a few times, like kind of bickering. And as they are, Bjorn just leans over and whispers to Agnes, hey, just do it one more time. It's the last time, I promise. You're doing so well. So like clearly he just wants to appease Patrick and like get through this.
Yeah, like just like fine, just do the dance one more time.
So Agnes gets back in position and Patrick counts the kids in again and they dance and it goes exactly how it has been. Abel's doing his best, but he can't keep up. And Patrick literally throws his Little Mermaid coffee mug across the room, like toward Abel. It doesn't hit Abel, but toward Abel, and it shatters on the wall.
Oh, God.
Louise tells Agnes to come over to her right away, obviously not just feeling uncomfortable or offended at this point, like we are scared again. And Agnes is crying, like softly into her mom's arms. Abel's standing up awkwardly in the middle of the room, looking down at the floor, like just feeling bad. And Patrick has the nerve to count Abel in again and start the music. And is just like, okay, well, then Abel can just do it himself now. And Abel starts crying because, of course, Bjorn surprisingly like gets up and grabs the boombox off of Patrick's lap, sets it on the ground, and turns it off.
Wow.
And Patrick looks up at him like confused and surprised, and he's like, "Oh, what's the problem?" Bjorn's like, what do you mean? He's only a child. What the hell is wrong with you? Can't you see that he's crying, that he's in pain? Like he's going off on him. And Louise yells at him too. They're both like winded and shocked and like by what they just witnessed. And Karen's like, oh my God, what's wrong with us? Because we do things differently? And Bjorn's like, no. It's not about doing things differently. It's about doing what's right. Like showing your son some love when he's crying instead of shouting at him.
Yeah.
And Patrick, what the fuck? You can't just let him dance, and you threw a cup at him, and like we're all getting heated.
Right. There's a lot of things we could talk about right now.
Yeah. So Patrick's like, fuck this, and he goes to press play on the boombox again.
Bro, just let it go.
He is yelling at Abel in Dutch, and Bjorn's still yelling at Patrick in English, and Louise is overwhelmed and rushes out to get some air.
Yeah.
And Bjorn and Agnes go out after her, and Bjorn puts his hand on her shoulder, but she like bumps it away and just tells him to take Agnes inside because she doesn't want her to see her like this. She's like almost hyperventilating.
Yeah.
And Agnes is like, Mom, are you okay? Are you sad? And Louise snaps on her and yells at her to go back inside with her dad and leave her alone. So Bjorn and Agnes like skitter away. Louise feels bad, like she didn't want to snap.
Of course not.
But she just keeps trying to like get her breathing under control. And we cut to that night because it's the last night. Like if this is a regular normal weekend, they're staying at Sunday night now and they're leaving in the morning. So we cut to that night. They're in their room packing up their suitcases, but they're also getting ready to go to bed. Like they still are going to sleep the night and then leave in the morning. So Bjorn is in the bathroom brushing his teeth when Patrick walks in and just like pees.
Oh, here we go again.
We're not surprised. He looks at him in the mirror too for a weird amount of time afterwards and then just walks out. Because he likes to stare at this man.
He really does.
That night, Bjorn wakes up to the sound of Abel crying out in his room. It's like similar to what they heard that one night when they were in the living room together. And he hears Patrick like yelling back at him, like presumably being like, just go to bed, like stop.
Yeah.
And it reaches a point, though, because Abel doesn't stop, it reaches a point where Patrick storms down the hall. Like, you can watch through the stained glass, like it's down that hall that they're in. Storms down the hall, and he, like, hears things get kind of physical in that room.
Oh, God.
And then Abel's cries stop. And Bjorn isn't able to get back to sleep after that because he's just, like, probably disturbed, but also because Patrick and Louise have... Oh, yeah. It's not just because he's disturbed that he can't go back to sleep. Also... The TV is blasting in the living room. Yeah, like as if it had been turned on just recently, like after the crying happened. and stopped.
Ew. Oh, no.
So he goes out to the living room because he's like, I cannot, it's so loud, I can't fall asleep. Louise is asleep in bed and she's just been asleep and hasn't woken up from anything. But he's like, what's going on? So he goes out into the living room. Nobody's in there. So he turns the TV off.
Yeah.
Then he hears running water and he follows the sound to the kitchen sink. So he turns that off too.
Okay.
He's like, why is everything just turned on around this house?
Yeah, what?
Then the sounds don't stop there. Then he hears a dull pounding from somewhere and he goes outside to track down that noise. And I think it was like a window in the wind, like hitting against the house. But he ends up in this like cabin shed situation behind the house.
Oh dear.
Yeah. We don't really care or even hear the noise that he was investigating in the first place because it's concerning what he finds in the shed. Like the focus is on the shed now.
Oh boy.
It is full of cameras, first of all.
Oh.
Which, whatever, people have their hobbies. But there's also a shit ton of empty suitcases all over the place.
No. No.
Yep. And then there's this little narrow staircase that leads up to a small attic space. And the light is already on up there. It's like lit with a single hanging light bulb. And it's a very small space, but the walls are covered in pictures. And the pictures are of Patrick and Karen with dozens, like maybe 100 different couples on vacation.
Oh my God.
And in the pictures, the kids are always different. So like he finds a picture where he recognizes Abel, but Abel isn't standing between Patrick and Karen. He's standing between the couple that's with them.
Oh no. Oh,
yeah.
No.
And then Patrick and Karen have a kid with them that he's never seen before. It's spooky too because in that picture, Abel is smiling so big and like the girl that's with Patrick and Karen looks depressed as hell.
Yeah. Oh.
Bjorn's freaked out and in shock and he gets out of that cabin and then sees that the light is on in the little pool house that they have. So they have, he's actually been in there. He knows about the pool house. Like him and Patrick were in it together at some point, just like hanging out in a pool. So he walks over to the pool house because of the light being on and he finds Abel face down floating in the pool.
No.
Drowned, dead. I don't know if he was dead before being put in the pool or if he was drowned in the pool, but Abel is dead.
Oh.
Bjorn runs. He runs back inside and he begs Louise to wake up. He's saying they need to leave right now.
Literally right now.
He doesn't say what he saw, but thankfully Louise and Agnes wake up and they listen and they head out to the car with their things and he's telling them to hurry. Obviously he's panicking.
Does this car start is the question.
It's that time of the movie to find out.
It really is that time.
Would you tell like your family or would you not want to freak them out more?
I think my main concern would just be getting out of there and I would be like, I'll explain later.
Yeah.
Like,
just trust me and like listen to me right now.
Yeah. Right now we just need to go.
Yeah. So when he starts the car, it starts.
Oh.
Except we get a close-up that they have almost zero gas.
Oh, no. Of course we don't have gas.
But he starts to back up out of the driveway and they make it out onto the road and a car comes up behind him at one point and he gets like so freaked out that he just veers off the road to get away from the car because he thinks it's following them. He's panicking. It's probably not the greatest idea, but he veers off the road to get away from them and the car that he thought was following them just keeps driving like normally on that road. So it was just his paranoia.
Yeah.
But now, since he veered off the road, they get stuck in a muddy field.
Oh.
Yeah. Of course, there's no signal on their phones. Bjorn gets out of the car and across the field, he can see a house in the distance with its porch light on. So he lets Louise know that he's going to go to them for some help and tells like Louise to lock her and Agnes in the car. She is still confused by all the urgency, but like agrees and tells him to hurry back. And when Bjorn leaves, we see that Patrick is standing at the edge of the woods near them watching everything.
Ew. Disgusting.
Yeah. So back with Bjorn, he makes it to this random house and starts knocking on their doors and window and screaming hello, like trying to get someone's attention, trying to get help. No answer. He ends up running back to the car. But when he opens the back car door, Louise and Agnes are gone.
Oh.
Ninos, the stuffed rabbit, is like still sitting in the back.
Ooh.
So he's like grabbing the rabbit and he just starts yelling out for his family. He runs back up to the main road, like screaming for them, crying, freaking out. And then some headlights appear down the road and a car gets closer and closer to him.
Oh.
And it slowly comes to a stop in front of him and Patrick gets out and he's just like, hey, Bjorn.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, he's like, hey, like, the vibe is like, hey, are you good? Like, Bjorn? Almost like he's worried for him. And we see that Louise, Agnes, and Karen are just chilling in the back of this car. And Patrick continues to Bjorn and he says, thanks for the call. I'm glad you agreed to meet us up on the road. He's just lying through his teeth because he wants Louise and Agnes to stay calm because they don't know what's going on yet. So he's acting like Bjorn called for help probably, and that's why they came and found them. So he's like keeping up the act with Bjorn. Louise, meanwhile, is thanking Karen for helping them out, saying how nice it is of them to do this, like come out in the middle of the night when they literally were trying to leave again.
Yeah, right.
And save them from their car troubles. But Bjorn still stood frozen in the middle of the road, so Patrick walks over to him and softly says, get in the car. Yeah. Bjorn's on the edge of an emotional breakdown, obviously, and he just begs Patrick not to hurt them. He's crying and he's just like, we just want to go home. And Patrick's an empathetic guy, you know. So
oh yeah.
So he says, hey, relax. As long as you do what we say, it's going to be fine.
I don't think so.
So Bjorn plays along and gets in the car. During the car ride, Agnes asks about Abel, like if he's still sleeping. And Louise just tells her yes, but then asks like if Abel is really just alone at the house. And Karen tells her that Muhajid is looking after him and he was up early anyway, so it's no big deal. We're still on this forested road when Patrick pulls the car over. And then he gets out and then he just pees on the side of the road.
Of course he does.
And Bjorn is sitting in that passenger seat staring at the keys in the ignition, like contemplating whether he should take his chance and take off, but he doesn't do. Would you do it?
I'm the kind of person to freeze, I think, in a moment like that, so I don't think I would. I think it'd be a good idea, but I would be too afraid I wouldn't be fast enough.
I'd be afraid of not being fast enough, and then I'd also be stressed because Karen is still in the car.
Right.
And I don't know how dangerous she is, like if it's just Patrick or if it's them as a couple. Like, I mean, given what I saw, I'd probably assume it's both of them, like messing with people.
I have to admit, like getting rid of the man and then it being like a 2v1, essentially. I mean, like, because I'm not going to include the kid on this. I would feel better. Like, I do feel like that would be a potential, I don't know, help.
That's true.
Still.
I would just think, like, does Karen have a knife on her right now that I don't know about?
That's true. I don't think my brain would go there in that moment. But I think that would be a smart thought to have.
So then Patrick just like gets back in the car and starts driving again. We cut to a little bit of a time passing on the road, just driving. And Agnes is saying to Louise that she wants to go home and she doesn't like this. And Louise asks Patrick if they'll be back soon, but he just doesn't say anything, completely ignores her. When Agnes says that she's scared, Patrick tells Agnes to be quiet. And Louise, of course, looks at him like, what the fuck, and says, excuse me. And Bjorn quickly and quietly tells her to just do as they say. Like, Bjorn's freaking out. Like, please don't raise your voice at this crazy man. And Louise isn't having it. She's like, they've taken us on a huge detour. Like, what's going on? We're not this far away from the house. What's going on?
Yeah.
And Karen sounds exhausted and is like, oh, can you please be quiet? Like, she's kind of like rubbing at her head. She's like, oh my God, these people, like, they're so annoying. Louise asks again if they can tell her when they'll be back at the house, and she just gets shushed by Karen. Patrick finally pulls into a seemingly random spot on this winding road and puts the car in park. There's another car right opposite them, facing them, that they like pulled up to, and he flashes his brights at them, and then the car flashes their brights back. So like, this is planned.
Who is this?
So Louise asks Bjorn what the hell is going on. Obviously, he doesn't have an answer. Someone steps out of the other car and comes toward them. And Agnes is expressing again that she's really scared. And Louise tries to comfort her, saying, she says, remember, when mom's here, nothing can happen to you because mom will always take care of you. Like, she's just trying to comfort her. And Karen is sitting next to them, like smiling smugly, like just watching them.
Ew.
And Louise demands Patrick to tell them what's going on and he tells her just to shut the fuck up. Like, all acts are gone. Bjorn checks him and is like, don't talk to my family like that, which, like, bold of you, actually, right now to say that.
At this point, yeah. I'm just gonna shut up at this point, honestly.
Yeah. But then immediately he gets punched in the face by Patrick. Louise is just holding on to Agnes in the back for dear life while Agnes starts to cry. She tries to get out of the car, but she's locked in on child lock.
Yeah.
Karen starts talking to Agnes, saying who knows what in Dutch, once again, like parenting Agnes again.
Yeah.
And then Karen says to Louise, please let go of her. And Bjorn tries to get in the back seat, like closer to his family, but he's immediately punched in the stomach. Like, Patrick's not going to let him go anywhere or get anywhere.
No.
Like, he'll just beat him up. And then Karen pulls out a pair of some sharp-ass looking scissors.
Not scissors.
And she puts a hand on Louise's shoulder and says in a gentle, coaxing voice, Louise, you will let go. Yes, you will. You will.
No.
And we see that it's Muhajid, the babysitter.
Oh, yep, there's the other character.
That is coming over from the other car. And Muhajid gets a nod from Karen. So then he opens the car door, like that Louise is at.
Yeah.
Opens the car door, grabs Louise around the throat with like his whole arm and just pulls her back. He doesn't pull her out of the car, just back enough to keep her restrained. So then Bjorn, of course, he's like, what is going on? Tries to get back there, keeps getting the shit kicked out of him by Patrick in the front.
Yeah, he's not going nowhere.
And it's to the point where like he's almost knocked out. He's not knocked out, but he's like hazy, like just struggling to breathe from getting punched around so much. But yeah, so then once Bjorn's taken care of enough, Patrick then turns into the back seat, grabs Agnes's face and pries her mouth open with both of his hands.
Oh, no.
And Karen cuts Agnes's tongue out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Movies like this never end well, but I was holding on to some amount of hope.
Yeah. Nope. So Bjorn might be like in a haze, but he sees what just went down and he's throwing up in the front passenger seat. And Louise is screaming and crying, like stuck in Muhajid's hold. And Agnes is obviously struggling. She's like choking. She's crying. Blood is gurgling. It's like going down onto her chest. Like that's a lot of blood that comes out of there.
Ew.
And Patrick manages to grab Agnes and push her into the arms of Muhajid while keeping Louise held back, like keeping her in the car. And so Muhajid carries Agnes and shuts the car door before just walking away with her.
Yeah.
Like she's abducted now.
Yep.
Patrick drives off while Louise is still just screaming for her child. She screams for them to let her out. And she literally hits and like smacks them, both of them, Patrick and Karen, as much as she can over and over. They both just let her and keep their eyes ahead, like totally nonchalant. They're like, whatever, unaffected.
Yeah, this is fine. This is a normal weekend for them, so.
Bjorn is totally frozen in shock in the passenger seat. Ooh. And Patrick drives them to another abandoned spot in like this cursed ass countryside, and it kind of looks similar to the rock quarry from earlier, so it might be the same location, or it could just be near it or something.
Yeah.
And once they're out of the car, Bjorn is crying again now, like it's catching up to him again, and Louise is totally shut down. Like she's had her freak out and now she's totally shut down.
Right.
And Bjorn asks them, why are you doing this? You know, like what the hell, we're ready for the motive.
Yeah.
And Patrick's answer is kind of the bomb drop on the whole message of the film. He goes, because you let me.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Basically, what these two do, well, I'll finish up. We're like very close to the end of the movie, but basically they were pushing boundaries this whole time. And there were multiple points where they could have left and they would have let them go.
Right.
But they lasted the whole weekend and now it's time to die.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, that feels a little meta horror right there.
So Bjorn looks terrified at that, and like also retrospective, like he's definitely thinking now about all of the little things that built up and got bigger.
Sure.
That they just let slide and still decided to stay. And then Patrick tells the both of them to take off their clothes. There's about 10 seconds where they both just stand there, but then Louise does as she's told and starts taking off her clothes. Bjorn follows her lead. They're shaking and terrified, but eventually completely stripped. And then Patrick and Karen order them down into a ditch, and they both hug each other and start to cry, Bjorn and Louise. And Bjorn tells her that he's sorry. Like, I think he just feels a lot of responsibility. He is the one who wanted to come here. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get a chance to respond because suddenly a rock is thrown and like smacks her in the side of her head. Yeah. And she goes to touch the spot that it hit and her hand is all bloody.
Right.
And a second later, she's hit again in the head and she falls to the ground. And Bjorn wraps his arms around her and tries to lift her up and get them away. But the rocks start flying at him now too. And they are both just lying on the ground, getting pelted, flinching at every hit. Patrick and Karen literally just stone them to death.
Oh, that's pleasant.
Yeah. Oh my God. Rough way to go.
Yeah.
When they're dead, Karen like snuggles up into Patrick for a hug as if she's just had a really long day.
No!
And he kisses the top of her head and they just leave them there. So then there's like this somber music over a montage at this new vacation resort with a bunch of happy families. Yeah. And kids having a good time. And we focus on one happy couple with their son, presumably the next target.
Yup.
And then the movie ends with a shot of Patrick and Karen driving happily on a beautiful sunny day through their lovely Dutch countryside. And Agnes is sitting in the back seat with Ninos, now like mute and depressed. So the cycle.
Oh my God.
The cycle's going to continue. And that is it.
What a depressing movie, dude.
So depressing. And I want to say the remake, because I asked Caitlin, you guys, like if she was going to watch the remake. She said, I'm good to go with telling her what happens in the remake. The whole third act of the remake is so different. And
really,
well, they're like have different names, but just for the sake of explaining.
Yeah.
They all get away.
Oh.
Abel, Bjorn, Louise, and Agnes all get away. There's no like, I don't think from what I remember, like Agnes gets her tongue cut out. The cycle doesn't continue. They win at the end.
I listen, as much as like this is depressing, it's a much better ending to just like see the cycle continue, in my opinion.
Exactly, because I feel like the whole point of the movie is like, okay, so maybe you can argue like nobody is this much of a people pleaser, like at certain points. But like that's not really the point. The point is be careful. Like don't be polite all the time.
Yeah.
Like so many of us are. And it's just like, maybe it's not super realistic with some choices that are made, but that's not the point. Like the point is you just let these people take advantage of you and then they do. And it's messed up.
Mm-hmm. I feel like everybody who has watched this film or listening to this or whatever is going to rethink their people pleaser tendencies and these kind of situations that they get put into. Maybe rethink that a little bit. Think back to this lovely film.
I think about it too much. It was really hard for me to come up with a survivability score.
This is a tricky one.
I kind of want you to give yours first.
Okay. It is frustrating to watch this family do what they do, but you also kind of get it. But I do think the child in the bed with the naked parents is when I'm out. So I don't want to go like crazy, but I do want to give myself like an 80%.
Okay, so I feel less bad about what I am putting on this for me. I decided to go with a 71 because I agree. Like, well, first of all, it's like neither of us would have gone in the first place.
Right.
So with that aside, I also think I'm just very untrusting of people. Like I can have like that too polite people pleaser energy, but if I'm uncomfortable, I will just up and leave without an explanation. Like I don't feel the need to give an explanation. I'm out. And then I have a kid on top of that. Like I would be hypersensitive to all these things. And I genuinely do think that I would take my chance and leave as well. Actually, probably the night after the restaurant situation. That would be enough for me to be like, I don't want to be here. Let's sneak out of here. I'm done.
Right.
I'm not going to leave my kid randomly with that babysitter again. I shouldn't have in the first place.
Not.
I'd like to think I wouldn't have at all. But then I don't want to give it a 100 because ideally, like both of us are saying, like we probably would leave and they would let us leave and we'd get away. But it's like, I just feel like I can't be that cocky about it because I understand that I am that person who is scared of confrontation and can easily be manipulated probably to like feel like I'm overthinking.
Exactly. That's the part. That's exactly the part is like every time they would flip it on me and be like, oh, like so sorry. Like we didn't mean that at all. I would go into that place of I'm overthinking. I'm overdoing it. Like this is a me problem. And so that is why I can't go higher. 180. Exactly that.
That means our average for today, rounding up always, we're giving this one a 76%.
76.
It's fun getting these scores and seeing over time how they like compare to each other.
Oh yeah, and I like will hope that everybody listening comes up with their own score.
Yes, we haven't
should do that on Discord.
Yes, that's what I was just gonna say. That's what I was just gonna say. We haven't set up the Discord yet as far as when we're recording this right now, but we have plans for it to be out by now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a perfect thing to have on that Discord server, a channel where everyone can put their own scores.
Yes.
I love that. Well, that's it for episode 2. Next time will be Caitlin telling us a little story.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for listening, and hopefully we will see you in episode 3.